Oh, just good news. I have not been recording at all.
At all?
Mm-mm.
No, there's no way.
I'm now recording.
I have 16 minutes worth.
Oh, boy. 16 minutes later.
We are back with the Indie Magazine podcast, and today we're talking with a longtime friend of mine, Michael V. Schrayder.
Stick around after as we discuss some of the movies and TV shows we've been seeing lately.
You want to do your great Norm joke again?
I don't think you loved my joke. I think in my head it came out better, and I was like, oh, that really didn't come out that great.
Joke. Maybe I'll laugh even harder for part 2.
Oh, I feel like I should write it down because it would make the delivery better, but I don't.
Just like Norm did, yeah.
For listeners of the pod, buckle up. That's all I'm going to say. Buckle.
First time listener.
First time caller.
It's good to be here. Long time caller, first time listener.
This is Michael V. Schrayder, and you have to either steal his mail or really get to know him to know what the V stands for. So for now, it's Very. Michael Very Schrayder.
So Schrayder.
So Schrayder.
That's so Schrayder.
We're not going to get into how we know each other because you're just going to find out later. So for now.
Don't come naturally. Don't pause at that.
That was too long of a pause. I was like, I've got questions. You've got questions.
We've got answers.
There are no answers.
Collectively.
I actually do have questions for anyone who is interested in animation.
Okay, great.
But also, we're just going to BS. So it's going to be a mix. First question, why? That's it. That's just the first question. So now we'll go to the second question. Why?
Why?
And well, even before that question, I did realize we should do this. What is your official job title or titles at the moment?
Currently it's motion graphics designer. I think that's my most average. That's my median credit.
Motion graphics designer.
Yeah, motion graphics animator, motion graphics designer, specialist. I do, among other things, I do the opening logos to Sony animated movies. Everything from Hotel Transylvania, Mitchell's vs. the Machines, Spider-Verse. That one was huge. For me personally, Vivo, that musical we did with Lin-Manuel Miranda. That was pretty fun. Yeah, so I do that, and recently my job has expanded into a little more marketing and commercials and stuff. But anyways, yeah, motion graphics. That's what I do.
Motion graphics. And for everyone unsure, that's still under animation.
Okay, fair.
But also other things? No.
Flat graphics, like 2D.
Okay.
Usually it's a lot of text, or it's a lot of like a fancy PowerPoint. My job is just fancy PowerPoints.
Fancy PowerPointist. All right, that's the first question. Great. Second question. Did Child Schrayder see himself doing this?
Ooh. Absolutely not. There's no way. This is dream job, and little Schrayder had no dreams. I think this is insanely specific for me to have this thing. Like, this job did not exist when I was a kid. How about that?
True. All right.
If this job existed back in the 90s, this would be, I don't even know, like typography.
Oh, interesting.
Probably more commercial advertising. If I was going to speculate, I have no idea the history of motion graphics. But yeah, my job, my things that I do are very current, I would say.
Okay. Cutting edge.
The bleeding edge of weird graphics. It is bizarre to see people on Instagram copy my style.
That is fun.
It's so bizarre and flattering, and there's no way little baby Schrayder imagined that at all.
That some dweeb in Laredo, Texas would be being like, I'm going to draw this in the style of...
Yeah, that's bizarre. or even to have my style be incorporated into the Spider-Verse style.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I was talking with one of the concept artists, and anyways, it's wild that I have left my mark in this way, and absolutely not what I saw coming. I graduated college with no prospects and no money, and it was horrifying. And just through a comedy of great things happening all at once, am I even in this industry?
That's going to be the name of your biography. A comedy of great things happening at once. Trademark it. Okay. Motion graphics designer, editor.
Yeah.
Did not plan on this as a kid. What did you want when you were a kid?
All right, that's enough. Here.
A legal length envelope has just been handed to me.
Please describe the envelope that has just been handed to you.
2 lines of text. The first says 2, and it looks like O with an umlaut, but then it was crossed off. So then the next line is 2, tot. It's not sealed. The peel away seal is still on the top.
It's too much effort.
On the right side of the envelope, where one would normally put a stamp, there are 2 lines. The first says 2, O with an umlaut, and then it's been crossed all off. And the bottom says 2, tot. And now I'm going to open the envelope.
Good forward work. Thank you. Thank you for playing along.
It's a reverse card.
Please describe the image in front of you.
I have just been hit with the Uno reverse.
Welcome to my podcast. It's the Schrayder podcast now. We are going to play a fun game called Crazy Fun Facts.
Get ready for some crazy fun facts. Crazy facts.
That's right, everybody. Welcome to Crazy Facts. Here we have some fun facts that I have compiled today. Taylor Swift's been in the news over her new album, The Tortured Poets Department, and one of her hit songs, I Hate It Here, has got some scrutiny over the lyrics. Are you familiar with this song, this album, Taylor Swift in general?
I haven't listened. I know others have, but maybe by the time this comes out, I will.
Sure, put it on your to-do list for tonight.
On my to-do.
So, finish the lyric from her new song, I Hate It Here. My friends used to play a game where we would pick a decade we wished we could live in instead of this. I'd say the blank, but without all the racists, and getting married off for the highest bid. What year does Taylor Swift wish that she could live in?
I wish I didn't already know this, but it's 1830.
You are correct. It's the 1830s. So today's episode of Crazy Fun Facts is all about the 1830s. Okay, real quick, we're going to get the poetry nonsense out of the way because I think I know what she was getting at. Do you know? You're also not going to get any of these questions right.
Nope.
There's no way. It's a 1 out of 10 chance. So you're just going to shot in the dark. I will say they are chronological. I did put them in some kind of order. What year was American poet Emily Dickinson born?
1830.
You're correct.
Dickinson.
Emily Dickinson. And that's the end of poets that were born in the 1830s. I really think that was the reference. Anyways.
Wow.
We're going to fast forward. We're also not going to talk about racist stuff.
Nope.
We're pretty much only going to talk about America. Because
sounds about right.
It sounds about right, because this was born in the USA, baby.
Baby.
Actually, wait, there are some fun. What year did Charles Darwin sail from England aboard the research ship HMS Beagle?
1832.
1831.
Okay. All right. Lovable Darwin.
The climax of Les Mis, I knew you'd like that.
Okay.
Is set during the June Rebellion in France. What year was the June Rebellion?
1831.
1832.
Wow, 1832. You are throwing me for a curve.
Not to be confused with the July Revolution of 1830.
Wow, the French. Enough, we have to go by months.
Les Mis, 1830s.
1830s Les Mis. All right.
I went on a deep dive on Wikipedia of just the whole decade of 1830s just to see what would happen.
Would you live in it?
I guess it depends on what part of the world and how many racists there are.
And how rich you are.
Okay, the city of Chicago. We're bringing it home, baby. The city of Chicago is established at the estuary of the Chicago River by 350 settlers. In what year?
1833.
Nailed it. In the 1830s, there was a lot of like famous people who were born that then would do cool things later. Alfred Nobel Prize guy. Inventor.
Dynamite Nobel. That's what all the ladies called him.
That's what they called him on his basketball team in high school. Was Dynamite Nobel. I bet you didn't expect this one. The Spanish Inquisition was disbanded in what year?
1835.
34.
Close.
So close. Fun fact, Spanish Inquisition started in 1470 and ended in 1834.
So it lasted longer than America will.
Great. Yep.
And we got it.
Okay, maybe my funnest fact. On June 8th, 1835, the Australian city of Melbourne was founded by two men named John. What were their last names?
Hemsworth and Kidman.
So close. John Pascoe Faulkner and John Batman.
There's just no way it was founded by Batman.
Melbourne was founded by John Batman and John Faulkner.
And we still don't have a Batman movie set in Melbourne.
Like
That's criminal.
You can't write that. It doesn't sound real.
Does he have posterity living in the city?
Oh, there's got to be like grandbabies.
I'm Bruce Batman of the Batman estate.
Right? Like
there has to be someone.
Anyway, okay. Australia, get at us. Let us know if you know a famous Batman. Also, 1836, Samuel Colt patented the revolver.
Wonderful. And we're still using them today.
Also, 1836, Arkansas is the 25th state in the U.S.
One mistake after another.
I have part of a note here. Texas, February, March, 1836. Texans got beat by Mexico in the Texas War of Independence at... I
can never remember what this is.
I didn't even write it down. I must have forgot.
But it's not Houston.
No, it's not Houston.
Dallas. Oh.
Sam Houston was a part of the Texas War of Independence.
Interesting.
Close.
If only we remember what it was.
No, totally forgot. Okay, another favorite. 1837, an American merchant named Charles W. King drove his boat named the Morrison up to Japan. What happens next?
The invention of sushi?
Yeah, he hits a bunch of fish and they get chopped up in nice little pieces.
The first American-Japanese poke bowl.
He takes his boat up to Japan and they shoot cannons at him for 2 days until he leaves.
He just couldn't get the hint.
It's so good. He loads up his boat with a bunch of supplies and things to sell, a couple of missionaries and a couple like shipwrecked people that he picked up. They're like, oh, we're from Japan. He's like, oh, I'm headed to Japan. Might as well. As soon as he gets within gun range, they just start shooting at his boat. And he drives up the coast trying to like find a place to port. And all the fishermen just scream at him to get the hell out. Get the hell out of here. And way to go, Japan, I gotta say.
He needed a restraining order.
Yeah, exactly. Sensuret III was the 5th king of the 12th dynasty of the Middle Kingdom in Egypt. When did his rule end?
I didn't realize it went that long. 1837.
Trick question. 1839 BC.
Ugh.
That was a trick. That was me. Maybe that's
good.
the one that Taylor Swift was going for.
More slaves.
No.
Less slaves?
Actually, since you mentioned it, biblical scholars claim that this is the Pharaoh that gained Joseph's favor during...
In the 1830s.
BC.
Wow.
Fun. There you go. That's the Osmond brother.
The Osmond brother?
What's his name?
Donny Osmond?
Donny Osmond.
Okay.
Donny Osmond plays Sensuet III.
Wait a sec.
Allegedly.
Wait. The Josephs. Wait, Joseph in the Technicolor.
Yeah.
The guy with the Technicolor Dreamcoat?
Yeah.
The one. Okay, so that's before Moses, though. Before Prince of Egypt.
Yes.
Okay.
Now you're putting me on the spot.
I think there's a couple hundred years in between. So he's not Donny Osmond. But is he Donny Osmond in.
Joseph? Oh, okay. Yep, I got Joseph and Moses mixed up.
I thought you were just somehow quoting the cast of Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I was like, that's
No.
impressive.
That was me.
Yep. Okay. So not an Osmond, but a Hebrew fan.
Not Osmond, the one that Joseph gained favor with the Pharaoh.
Okay. 1830s, he liked the bagels. He says, come on, hang out.
This is that Pharaoh.
Got it.
Okay. What year did Chinese Imperial Commissioner Lin Zhao ban the sale of opium and restricted all foreign trade?
1839.
Nailed it.
Wonderful.
Now, opium was Britain's single most profitable commodity trade of the 19th century. So, what year did the British retaliate and seize Hong Kong?
1840?
1839, the exact same year. Just a few months later.
The Brits, so timely.
Who would have guessed? The invasion of Hong Kong led to the Opium Wars, lasting from 1839 to 1842, ushering in what the Chinese historians call the Century of Humiliation.
Straight shooters.
There's no watering down there. Literally, the translation is something like 100 years of national disgrace, which is poetic and tragic.
I missed that part in the British Museum where there was just a mountain of opium. I really wish I had found that one there.
Anyway, that's my show. Thanks for playing Crazy Fun Facts.
Some crazy fun facts. Crazy facts.
I was pretty proud of that soundtrack.
Did you put that together yourself?
I did put that together.
That's pretty good.
As a celebration, it's time I open the second present, and it's drinks.
Podcast listeners, we're ready for this ASMR? Wow, that's nice right there.
Gotta get that sponsorship money.
Sponsored by nobody yet. Hopefully Dr. Pepper. Hey, you know what though? No, I will.
Dr. Pepper, hit us up.
I am going to plug something. If you're listening to a podcast as dumb as this one and you're like, you know what? I could be doing this. You could be doing this. And especially with the help of Descript. We use Descript and we have an affiliate link with Descript. Descript is a great way to edit your podcast. And this is an ad in the middle
real?
of a real episode.
Is this really happening?
This really is happening.
Wow.
Folks, that's what it's called, a plug. But you should probably not put it in the middle of the episode.
Shout out to Descript for all their good work. Thank you, Descript, for noticing us. I have done this intentionally, that you will have to cut out all the slurping sounds.
I'm going to keep them in.
Okay.
We're going to be raw. We're just going to slurp it up on the mic.
There you go. That's all my interruptions. That's all the skits that I've had prepared.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. This has been another wonderful episode of... Wait. Okay, well, let's get back to animation and child Schrayder, because I follow new age weird stuff on Instagram and TikTok. Who doesn't? Someone had said the job you wanted when you were 5 is really the job you should have been doing your whole life. Do you agree with that?
I'm going to say, yeah, I think so. With a small caveat of, I don't think NASA is equipped to handle 1 billion astronauts.
There's too many dreams.
I genuinely think that dreams and goals are important, and also we have to live in the real world.
Yeah.
And that every day, even maybe more mundane jobs are honorable and good.
I like that.
I guess I don't want to put down a mundane job, because I really enjoy putting gas in my car.
Yes.
And going to Burger King.
Yep.
Not yet a sponsor. Hit us up.
The King, please.
Someday. I really enjoy living this way.
Yeah.
And I think I enjoy kids who go to school. Like I feel like there are a lot of jobs out there that we don't even acknowledge at the age of 5.
Yeah.
That are very important.
Okay, I can get with that. I don't know if I agree with her because I was like, again, too many astronauts. There's only so many fires.
Cowboys don't really exist in LA. Let me put a big asterisk on that because cowboys definitely do still exist. We have seen some cowboys in West LA.
We've seen some cowboys. There's a good Laney song about cowboys in LA. If you had done something else in college, or what was your backup? What was your...
For sure.
If I don't get into the animation department at university...
At our school, the program was very competitive, and everybody had a backup plan. Usually it was illustration, because my alumni really liked to draw. Like, they wanted to get into animation because they liked to draw. That was not why I got into animation. I didn't like drawing that much.
You weren't just a sketchbook kid all the time.
No. I was a doodler. I liked...
You played football.
That is
Okay.
It's weird looking back and realizing I was a sports kid, because I definitely do not identify myself as a sports kid. But yeah, my backup plan was advertisement.
Okay. Like art directing in advertising?
I just aim for advertising and see what I hit. I had past tense, still have an uncle on my dad's side who was into advertising, and the world of like graphic design and arts and all that and film was close enough to our advertisement program. There was a weird overlap there. I don't know. I think the film teacher used to be in advertising or something like that. I don't know. I didn't take those classes. I got into animation. So
if you were married by the time you left our school, you were in advertising. You had kids to pay
honestly, I didn't know how big that advertising program was.
You were going to do advertising if not. Let's just talk about getting into the animation program, because I thought about this the other day and I was like, wait, this sounds like a bad movie sketch. Do you draw things and say, grade my drawings, and just hand it to some guy who goes, that looks like a C- nude. That looks like an A+ apple. What does that look like?
Do you want me to burp in the mic or away from the mic?
In it. Why not?
Yeah, this is yours.
Will it peak?
It did peak.
For the kids back home, I'm sorry.
That was much more powerful than I expected. How does animation school work? That's a great question. There are some schools that all of the information is more or less hypothetical, theoretical.
Okay.
A little frustrating for those students. Luckily, the reason that our program was so good, I was a TA in this program, so this is like something that I can talk about for a very long time, so just cut me off whenever you're ready.
I'm buckled up.
So our program was put together by industry professionals, like modern industrial professionals, because this industry changes so fast. It literally is at the speed of technology, which changes like every 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Something crazy. So having the opinion of someone who was just recently in the industry is extremely helpful. And they structured our classes and our assignments in a similar way to how the industry would do it, where some schools, they'll say, your senior project is all up to you.
Okay.
At the end of the year, turn in a 5-minute animation with a couple talking characters, and good luck. And they'll just let you run wild. And the student has to play director, producer, scriptwriter, animator on top of all of that. They have to do 100% of everything by themselves. Where our program differs is it is set up like the industry in that you are director, you are producer. Sorry, I realize I'm on an audio. I'm pointing to different imaginary people in the room.
Schrayder's gesticulating, yeah.
Gesticulating wildly in the studio today. One person is director, another person is producer, another person is head of animation and has people kind of work under them. Another person is painting the backgrounds. Another person is working on the text and titles and transitions, which is what I did on my senior film. So it's fun that the thing that I did on my senior film actually did transfer over into my job, which is by design. Like, that is what the program intended for.
So less choose your own adventure, more internship based ish.
Exactly. So when we do have an internship, like I had a bunch of friends who went to DreamWorks for a summer, they blended in easily because they were already doing the work as a senior in college.
Wait, so before your senior year, when you should have been doing an internship, we went on a study abroad to Europe?
Yeah, man.
But then you got the job to work on Spider-Verse?
Mm-hmm.
For everyone who wants to pull out the knives, here is his address. It is in L.A. It's... Okay.
I'm in Mid-City. Come at me.
He drives a Ford. Won't be hard to catch him. Okay. You had prep work. You were already doing stuff to translate it directly into what you're doing.
Yeah, more or less.
Did you enjoy it, though?
My college years? Sure.
The coursework as an animation major.
Oh, yes. Okay. So one of the best things, you had the example of, like, do you just turn in a drawing and someone says you get a C+?
Yeah.
So one of these classes is choose your own adventure.
Wonderful.
Is class time. What can you do? What do you got? Turn me in a project at the end of the semester and I'll grade you. Let's see how you progress and how much effort you put into it, and you grade yourself.
Okay, wild.
Plot twist. And he just stares at you like your final is, he looks you in the eyes, looks at your portfolio, looks at your project, looks you in the eyes and says, what do you think you deserve?
Oh, wow. That's a lot for someone in their early 20s.
And he says, of course, there are people that will abuse the system and bump themselves up when they probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the spectrum is a bunch of really hardworking kids who don't know how hard they work and actually dock themselves points for not working hard enough.
Okay.
And he's like, those are the people that get A's.
What?
The people that dock themselves points, the teacher manually goes in and just gives them an A+.
Gotcha.
Because those are the people who are actually working on stuff.
They're going to be doing it, yeah.
So, yeah, the average is like a B.
Okay.
We pretty much everybody ends up in a B. Yeah. Especially if it's like your senior year into something that you put a ton of effort in already. And at that point, grades really don't matter anymore.
You're finding a job.
Right, unless you're doing scholarship stuff, which did happen on occasion. But, yeah, those were the best classes where it was, here is an end goal. I think it was like sophomore year. It's just like, you have 2 assignments and you have all semester to work on them. Good luck.
Wow.
Just go run free. Here's a website of tutorials, and here are all of your classmates, and here are your upperclassmen who have all the answers that you're looking for.
Yep.
Go network.
Wow. So it prepares you really well for, in theory, for the job market.
Whereas other schools would be like, let's do a lecture for an hour, and that's an hour that you lost studying something that you would actually be interested in.
Yeah, okay. And then you graduate. Let's talk about the road trip. Let's just talk about we know the road trip.
The first trip out to L.A.?
The first trip out to L.A.
So my student film won, I say mine, I worked on it for like a day. It was very minor, but we were nominated for a student Emmy, and we got a bunch of guys together and we drove out from Utah to LA for the award show for the student Emmys. I think we won for like music.
Okay.
Not exactly
on your resume, but it's
not really what we were
existed.
going for, but still, that's a win for Mary.
Your animation is so good that all we did was hear your film. Okay.
No, the film was great. It was put together by a bunch of kids. It was, for what we had and what we did, amazing.
Okay.
So we go out there, and I am in the mindset of I'm graduating, I have no aspects. It's like that scene in Pride and Prejudice of like, I'm 27, I'm not married, I'm a burden on my parents, I'm afraid.
A loser.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's totally where it was. And so I was like panic emailing every studio that would respond.
Yep.
Tristan actually got me in with a guy at Cartoon Network.
I did, yeah.
Who was just like the coolest guy in the world.
No longer at Cartoon Network. We'll shout him out. Randy Myers.
Shout out Randy. And he showed me a bunch of like behind the scenes stuff on Samurai Jack because that was coming out that year. And that was super cool. So yeah, I was talking to probably like 4-ish studios, people at studios, and I was just like, hey, I'm going to be in town this weekend. If you're available, I would love to meet you in person. I'd love to see the studio, see what you got going on. And one of those people I was in contact with was Matt Davis at Sony Animation. He's like the VP of post-production right now, I think.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, you can come check it out if you want. It's just a big empty office building. Like, it's not... He was like bracing me for like basically saying like, it's not Pixar. Like, we're not driving around on Segways and like bouncy balls at our office. Like, we do work here.
Okay.
This is a place of business. But he was super cool. And he let me in the door and we walked around a little bit and we talked about the good old days and we talked about movies, and he introduced me to other coworkers, like his assistants and stuff. And it was just like, okay, great. Nice to meet you and good luck out there. Then we did the student Emmys and we won for music, and we packed up and we drove out. And then I got a phone call in Vegas. We had stopped at like a Roscoe's Chicken or something.
Okay.
Or Zaxby's. I think it was
Zaxby's. Yeah, there you go.
We stopped at the Zaxby's and I got a phone call that said, hey, if you're looking for a job, we actually want to hire you immediately. Can you come in on Monday? It was like a long weekend. It was like a 3-day weekend.
Yeah.
And so I freaked out and I said, yes, absolutely. And I got back in the car with my friends and I was like really excited and like really nervous to tell my friends because we were all in the same boat. Like, nobody knows what we're doing. I was like, I just got a job at Sony. And full range of emotion. They were like high fives and hugs.
Yeah.
And then there was like a couple people were like, cool, good for you, awesome, great.
The kid who didn't get the golden ticket in their chocolate bar, just like, ugh.
Yeah. Like, oh, sorry, bud.
Yep.
But I got it. Very exciting. Packed myself immediately. I panicked. I told a bunch of friends, like, I'm moving to LA and I don't have a place to live. And so I got a very generous place to live for a couple weeks out in a very nice part of town until I got more permanent housing. And my car broke down in the middle of Baker.
I remember that. Yeah.
I spent like a day or two just in a hotel, like at the Denny's in Baker's, drawing in my sketchbook. Like, this is the start of my journey.
You were stuck there then, and now you're like, that sounds ideal.
Honestly, yeah. There's a weird part of me that daydreams about just like being stuck in Baker with nothing to do but a sketchbook and a busted car, and
that's pretty hard rock.
Very fun. In hindsight, it's fun in hindsight.
You're right. In the moment, maybe not so fun.
In the moment was a little rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started at Sony. I was there the summer the Emoji Movie came out, so I worked on the English translation
hit movie.
The hot movie of the summer, 2017. I worked on the quality control for the Emoji Movie, the English, the Chinese version.
Okay.
In the movie, they go to a lot of apps that don't exist in China.
Yeah.
They don't have Facebook or Spotify or Drop.
So everything is...
It was like localized
okay.
to China. So I handled a lot of receipts and a lot of scheduling and all that stuff as a post-production PA. And then I transitioned from that to, I heard an editor needed an assistant, and Sony was super cool to let me just go talk to this guy. And he let me work on this project under the table. As soon as I touched it, it was immediately canceled. So it never came out.
Wait, can we talk about this one, or is this off the table?
How about I tell you about the movie that did come out? So like that same summer, like I feel like a few months later, they had a movie come out about a caveman who befriends a wolf and is like the first domesticated dog.
Yeah.
And it was called Alpha, I think.
Okay.
The worst part is that so this is a very similar plot to the movie that I worked on for just like a minute. The worst part is also put out by Sony Pictures. I can't imagine the frustration of working on an animated movie for years and then just having like the studio down the street just come out with, like, beat you to the punch, just come out with it the next day.
Yeah.
So yeah, the very first thing I worked on disappeared into the ether. And then I was pretty quickly picked up by another set of editors. Yeah, I worked on this project that disappeared into the ether. The editor that I worked with, his name was Steven. Steven was an editor on Toy Story.
Oh.
First original Toy Story. Had a ton of Pixar stories. That was fun.
That's really fun.
So it was, and then I was like in meetings for Hotel Transylvania with Gendy Tartakovsky. Like I went from so cold, literally, going to school in Utah, to so hot immediately, like working with animation legends in the same room, talking to me. Not just like in the same room, but like,
hello, Schrayder.
Yes, like this is a meeting with me and Gendy, and people are taking notes on what I say.
For those who don't know / people close to me, Gendy. Let's just rattle off a handful of Gendy things. I love Samurai Jack, which is him. I love the 2002 to 2003 Star Wars Clone Wars miniseries. So good. We recently watched Primal, which is on Max, HBO, until they decide to shit can it, or hopefully they never do.
The first thing, old school Cartoon Network, Dexter's Lab.
Oh, that is Gendy. You're right.
Yeah.
Dexter's Laboratory.
And just by association, he was on a couple of Powerpuff Girls. So yeah, animation legend. Oh, and he was working on Hotel Transylvania. He's the director for Hotel Transylvania. First 3 Hotel Transylvania. And so yeah, I got to work on number 3. And it was crazy. It was great. It was amazing. And I got to work with a bunch of great people. And then the Spider-Verse landed in my lap. Just insane. Dream come true.
Let's just start here with Spider-Verse, though. Okay, so when you got hired or while you were already there, did you know about Spider-Verse?
Yeah. Spider-Verse was not really public to the studio. Definitely not public to the public. Some projects were a lot more open, like, hey, we're working on this thing, check this out, isn't this cool? Spider-Verse was like locked down. And I think in hindsight, just because so much of it was changing, so much of it was constantly being updated.
Okay.
So,
a common theme for the Spider-Verse movies.
A common theme, as it would turn out. So, yeah, after Hotel Transylvania, I got to work on Vivo for a little bit, which was amazing. And then when I was on Spider-Verse came to me first, almost as an edit thing of like, hey, we're putting an animatics together for this big fight scene. Maybe we'll call you. And I held my breath and I followed up and I was like, hey, do you still need me? And they're like, oh, that thing we wanted you on got cut from the movie. We're not doing that anymore.
Emotional damage.
Right. So close. There was going to be a big fight scene with Miles and the Prowler on like a big subway car that got cut. That turned into Aunt May's house. So close so far. And then just one day, Justin Thompson, who I think was the production designer on the first one, who became the
director for
the second one, Justin Thompson walks into my little office and he's like, hey, we really want to make this thing feel handmade, fresh, or organic. Now I'm just describing groceries. We want to make this thing feel handmade, that people made this.
Okay.
And we're losing it in the opening logos. We're wondering how much we can change the logos. Can we just get you to do a mock-up of what if the Marvel logo was blue? Maybe
Easy.
In this universe that we're watching, all the logos are different. Like, what does that look like? I said, absolutely, I can make a logo blue. So I was like, that's like the easiest thing. That's 101. So he's like, okay, now can you put polka dots on it?
You said, ooh, a challenge.
Ooh. And it was literally that, just like one little piece at a time over days, weeks, months. I think it was on it for like 2 months, putting together opening logos. And that's really how it happened. Was Justin, I would show a bunch of weird stuff to Justin, like, hey, what if we put a bunch of lightning in it? What if we made it pink? What if we did it this way? And he would cherry pick, like, this is good, these are not good. And he sat over my shoulder some days, which was amazing. Like, I know the idea of having someone like stand over you and tell you exactly what to do is daunting for a lot of people. But honestly, it was perfect. I trusted the process, and he knew what he was looking for. And so he and I put together those opening logos, and then we like packaged them up and shipped them off to an actual studio to like make the final version.
Okay.
So that was like my first like designer credit was Christmas 2018 on Spider-Verse.
And the logos were used in the trailer too, right?
Yeah. So the trailer ended up being the first trailer was a different studio. I think I actually did that. I want to say at like Picture Mill. They did it just like on the fly of what if we mashed a bunch of stuff together. So
Gotcha.
Justin came in with that in mind of like, can we match what the trailer did a year ago?
Okay.
So that helped a ton that he already had a vision for it. And then we sent it off to, I think, Deva Studios, a studio that we use a ton. And then I got the reputation as I can do opening logos.
He's the logo guy.
All of a sudden, all of our projects want a custom Sony logo, so they all start a little bit different right off the bat. Sony does not have a house style. Like, you can watch a Pixar movie and be like, oh, that's Pixar.
Yeah.
We recognize that style. Oh, Disney. All the Disney princesses look the same, right?
Yep.
There's a huge thing with, like, Elsa, Anna, and Tangled, Rapunzel. They just are all the same.
They're all the
face,
same
basically.
girl. Yep.
Anyways, Sony does not have a bunch of princesses.
Nope.
Sony does not have... The closest thing to a house style is, like, Open Season or...
Oh, you're right.
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah.
So we leaned into that, saying, like, Sony is the only place that could do Spider-Verse right.
Yeah.
And really leaned into the power of not having an expectation.
Everything can be surprising, yeah.
We can do whatever we want to do.
You're right.
That was huge. Especially as a young guy who has no idea what he's doing, that a studio has no expectation of like, just throw some stuff together, see what happens.
And your ideas get taken.
And then they take my ideas and incorporate it into the movie.
Into an Oscar award-winning movie.
Wild. I literally just showed up at work one day and they handed me an Oscar of just like, smile. They take my picture.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There were so many producers and directors on that first movie that the after Oscar party, like just everybody got to hold an Oscar for a while. They just handed them out like party swag bags. It was crazy.
The Oprah Winfrey show of Oscars.
You get an Oscar. It was so much fun. And I was in the industry for maybe a year at that point.
That's pretty fantastic.
So that was wild. And so I got that reputation as the opening logo guy. I got to work on Mitchell's vs. Machines a ton. That was definitely in my wheelhouse of weird little tricks I could do now. This is a little bit of a deep dive, but we were talking about little baby Schrayds. I always had the worst handwriting.
Okay.
And I got crapped for it, right? Because you're learning how to write as a kid.
Yep.
And my stuff sucked. And so it was always something I was like a little self-conscious about.
Okay.
Of that I have bad handwriting. And in the Mitchells, there's a lot of handwritten expressions, a lot of onomatopoeias, a lot of stickers, animated stickers. And so it was like crunch time and they're divvying out all these additional effects. And I want to say I volunteered for one just because I wanted to see if I could. Yeah. And they let me, and I hand drew. My handwriting is in that movie.
Which onomatopoeia? Do you remember?
Yeah, man. It's the word liar.
You were like, in my wheelhouse.
Don't read into it. It's like, I want to say it's the end of the second act when Katie is on the phone with her parents, like, don't worry, I got this, guys. Everything's going to be fine. And it's like, wee-oo.
That's right.
Liar.
Oh my gosh.
As she's like driving the family car up the side of a building.
Yep.
That's me. So
You have things you can point to that are you. Where other people have a portfolio of like, oh, here's some sketch, here's some previs. You're like, minute 55 and 16 seconds.
here's a timestamp,
Here
right?
are my words.
So really, every project that I got to be on got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Until the biggest project was Across the Spider-Verse. I was actually living in Phoenix at the time, and working long distance, and Justin Thompson, who graduated to director, said, "Hey man, we need you in office." And I was like, "I don't live in LA. I don't know what you." He's like, "What do you need?" I was like, "I need a place to sleep." He's like, "We'll get you a hotel." So I lived out of a hotel for 7 weeks, 6-7 weeks.
Was this the time you crashed at our place first and then
Yes.
hotel? Okay, this was the same time.
Because it was like I wasn't sure what my exit date for this thing was. So I was like, oh, Tristan's out of town. I can crash at his place for a little bit. And then it's like, oh, no, we need you for another 4 weeks at that time, 3 or 4 weeks. So, yeah, I crashed at a like Marriott in Culver City on the other side of the mall and worked 80, 90-hour work weeks.
Wow.
And I was dating a girl in San Diego at the time. There were some weekends where it was like I would send an email at midnight on a Friday and just hit the road and go hang out at my girlfriend's place in San Diego. And that was the craziest summer. Like, that was the most intense workload I've ever had.
23? 22.
22, I want to say.
22.
Wait, it was
No,
last
23.
summer. 23, yeah. And it was so crazy. I remember at the end of it, so we work with ImageWorks. Sony ImageWorks is up in Canada, and that's like where the extremely heavy lifting happens. Special effects, actually animating all the characters, compositing, just like the movie is made in Canada.
But there's a few people in LA doing it, right?
Sure, almost more like this is where concept art and the
Okay,
directors
gotcha.
live. But then all the magic happens up at ImageWorks. I worked with ImageWorks over a couple advertisements. We did like a big Nike billboard and a Hyundai spot where Gwen drives a car and Miles is like, "Hey, what song are you listening to?" Like, it was very fun for a summer project.
Dipping your toe in the advertising world.
Yeah,
Okay,
really.
now-
And ImageWorks as a studio bought me the new Zelda game.
The studio, not
the-
your boss, just here's a
studio,
bonus.
the heads of the studio put together a little thank you card. Wow. And they got me a thank you card, a GameStop gift voucher for Tears of the Kingdom, and a bag of sour gummy worms because they know me.
So they got to know you pretty well. Yeah, I was going to say.
It was like the most brotherhood I felt in a very long time. Of like, we are
Wow.
all in the trenches right now. There was one day I'm working on these. Oh, also rewind just a little bit. They are telling me about this job position. They're like, "Hey, we want you back on Spider-Verse. We want you to do the opening titles again." And I said, "Great, just like last time. I'll design them and we'll have another studio finish them off." And they said, "Sorry, no, it's just you. We don't have it in the budget to hire another studio. So
You are the studio.
you are the studio now. Yeah, it's a one-person job now." Phil Lord said that I should make T-shirts for the Schrayder unit. I loved that. Bizarre that I got Phil Lord's phone number, like that kind of thing. Like, it was so frantic.
Bizarre that you just dropped Phil Lord said I should. On the
So,
pod.
Guys that Tristan and I were like talking about in college are now like all of a sudden are texting me at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday, like, "Hey, can you come into the office tomorrow?" It was so crazy. And so, yeah, it really was like last minute putting this all together. And I say last minute because the movie came out in June and I was working on it from, I want to say, April to May. So yeah, I had Easter out here, and anyways, so wild and great and amazing and lucky that I could do it as a single guy. I feel like if I had much bigger responsibilities, it would be even harder to pull an 80-hour work week. But The movie came out and it went great. Oh, I was a small anecdote of just how frantic it was, and the brotherhood of this thing was like one day I was working on the Columbia logo and I needed art. Like I was expecting the art team to hand me a bunch of like cool Columbia lady alternate universe stuff. And I reached out to the art department. I was like, hey, I just wanted to follow up on this thing. And they're like, we had a last minute call that we need a dozen movie posters made in a million different languages. Oof. And unfortunately you got pushed. So it's back on you again.
Wonderful. So researcher.
There's a bunch of stuff in there that was temporary that I built as like, oh, this will get replaced later with better stuff that someone else makes. And then it just became, no, actually, that's it.
That's in the movie.
that's in the movie now. So I had to like panic, make things look more permanent. But yeah, I'm glad that it's only like a minute, because if you sat and looked at it for longer, you would see all the seams and all the janky JPEG-ness of it, all the weird compression artifacts. But yeah, Spider-Verse was crazy. And what's the official stance now? Is in production. The new one. Yeah. So
pre-production? In production?
In production.
In production. By the time this episode drops, you might already be doing things.
Yeah. I'm gonna get back on it this summer when things really start to pick up again. So yeah, that's my career in a nutshell. It's all crazy and I'm very lucky.
Now, we can't forecast the future, and I already asked you this enough offline, so we're not going to go too far into it. You've got the third Spider-Verse. Who knows what happens next at Sony Animation? What's the next, not even just dream. Dream sounds silly. What's the next goal? 5 to 10 years, you're going to be like, you know what? I will want to have this or this done.
Tristan now just wants me to talk about him for a minute.
No, we don't. Well, we don't have to go there. Let's just talk about a couple moths. That's what I really want to hear about.
Okay, a couple. What is the new dream board?
What's the new vision board?
As little baby Schrayds wanted to play with Spider-Man as a kid, and now Spider-Man's a coworker. Like, what's the next big dream? Like, I honestly feel like I skipped the film school part where you just make dumb things with your friends.
Yep.
I did not have that childhood experience of making dumb movies with friends. And that's what I want to get into now. I want to make dumb things with friends. I'm lucky enough to be in LA surrounded by a bunch of talented people, multidisciplinary professionals who are all passionate about their craft and that I can pay them in Little Caesars Pizza.
Not sponsored by.
Not yet.
Little Caesars Pizza.
Hit us up. So Tristan and I have written a few things. We've written some TV shows. We've written some longer form productions. We're currently pitching a few things, which is fun.
We are.
We are currently in pre-production for a big shoot we're going to do this fall after summer.
That's true, yeah.
So more info on that when it becomes more concrete and public.
You're right. We'll have to have you back on and have someone else interview us.
Yes.
As soon as our show gets bought.
Let's get Duani in here. Yeah, LA Times, hit us up. So yeah, Tristan and I are working on. I'll subtract Tristan from the equation for just a second and say, I want to direct. I think that's
Director Schrayder.
I want to give it a shot. I want to see what it's about. I feel like it's something that I could potentially be good at, and I'll never know unless I try.
It's time to try.
Yeah, we wrote some things, and I just recently talked about casting with with the leading lady.
That's true.
Yeah, I want to try directing. I want to see if that's something that I could be good at, and it's definitely something I'm interested in. And then let's see what happens beyond that. I don't have any big plans.
I think that's the perfect place to end this. I could ask 100 more questions.
Can I give one-word answers?
Best movie you've recently seen?
Monkey Man.
Ooh.
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
I just saw Sunshine. Chris Evans in space.
Cillian Murphy.
They did a lot of weird camera stuff I'm into right now. Next question.
Sunshine, next question. All right. When you're not watching movies or making movies, what are you doing?
Either drawing in my sketchbook or currently I'm playing Borderlands 3.
Okay, those are good. I'm going to out you. D&D. What is your character?
I'm the forever DM. I am every character.
You're just a DM? You are meant to be a director.
I think it's something I could be good at.
You're not an elf-born harlot or something like
I
that?
think the last time I played a character, I was a Minotaur whose name was Limp Brisket.
Limp Brisket.
A foghorn leghorn type character.
All right, that's pretty good. Favorite campaign you've written?
Ooh, the Stink Mines. Easy.
10 words. What are the stink mines?
This was Spooky Scary Skeleton Man gives you a transportation spell and says, avenge me. An evil wizard killed me in the mines. And then you find out that it was a case of mistaken identity and it was just bandits and the wizard is down there trying to stop the apocalypse. And then you shank him and the apocalypse starts and you're like, oh no.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think the thing that made that one stand out was that we really explored every character's backstory, like what would happen if you never joined this quest and did what you really wanted to do in your life. And we got Sam Dittmer doing as a circus act, and it was
Wonderful.
extremely good. Sorry,
Next question. Beach Boys or Beatles?
I hate the Beach Boys.
Ouch. Okay. Next question. Bare Naked Ladies, They Might Be Giants.
Bare Naked Ladies.
Jimmy Buffett, Nickelback.
Jimmy Buffett.
Emphatically?
You just knocked my socks off with Nickelback. I wasn't expecting that at all. Jimmy Buffett.
Burger King or Denny's?
Burger King.
Therapy or a good Disney movie?
Therapy.
Okay, great. Through the Spider-Verse 5 or direct your first feature with $100,000?
Ooh, dang. Director.
All right. There we go.
And then Sony can hire me freelance to do the titles.
One last plug before we log off. Give us a 2-minute what's happening with Animation Guild right now before we sign off.
In 2 minutes?
Two minutes. Go to a website to really read about it. What do you feel like is really impacting?
Studios are misallocating resources. Put the money into the people who actually make the thing instead of CEOs.
Fantastic. AI. In a minute.
AI could be a tool. It is currently just stealing from artists.
4 tools.
Right. AI is the future. Let's do it right.
I like it. I like it. All right, let's wrap it up. We're done. Thanks again for coming on today. You're going to come on again soon.
Thank you. We're doing podcasting. Oh, yeah, baby.
Give us the NPR.
Thanks again for listening.
NPR, not ASMR.
This is goodbye from thank you for listening to the Indie Magazine podcast.
And happy birthday to Schrayder today.
Happy.
That's right.
All right, Madison, you just got back from the desert. River rafting? Camp?
Yeah, that's all of it. I was on the Green River for 5 days with a group of veterans as a volunteer trip, and it was so cool, so good to just be disconnected from everything for 5 whole days, and it's just fantastic.
Now, with veterans, did you talk movies with them, or did you just talk nature?
Not really. I just listen to them talk to each other.
That's
because they got a lot of stories, man. And so for me, it's just better to be a fly on the wall and just to let them talk and just to listen to them.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but after Masters of the Air, it definitely reopened my veteran attention, I guess, if you'd say that, or interest in all things. And I even have another friend who now has never been into war, He's more into Reese Witherspoon. Anyways, since then, we've been out to dinner. We've been walking down the street, and he's like, he looks like a veteran. Should I ask him if he served in the airborne? I was like, no, he's a little too young, but that's very nice of you. I think that's a Vietnam cap, not a World War II cap. But it does make you more aware.
It certainly does make you more aware.
That's great. Let's talk about what you've been watching. You want to go first? You want me to?
First, I've watched a lot of things, even though I was on the river for 5 days. Because when I got back, I sat down wrong on my bed and I hurt my back.
Oh boy.
And so I've just been watching things now. So I watched Blue Eye Samurai, which was really cool. I went and saw the TV Glow yesterday, and I also saw Furiosa yesterday. And let's see, I feel like I watched a bunch of other things. I think I started Arrested Development over again, which is hilarious. And I started The Simpsons.
Oh, wow.
Again.
From episode 1.
No, I think I started in like season 4 or something.
Okay.
I found an article. It was like, when did The Simpsons start getting good? And it was like sometime in season 4. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. A little after they started. Let's talk about your movie going, because I'm interested to hear what your reviews are of some of the things you've seen. Let's start with Furiosa.
Yeah. Really fun movie.
Okay.
I watched Fury Road. Fury Road was just phenomenal. And I watched that 2 weeks ago, just in anticipation of going to see this. Furiosa is obviously, it's a prequel to the Furiosa that we see in Mad Max Fury Road. And Anya Taylor-Joy plays Furiosa, and Charlize Theron plays Furiosa in the Mad Max Fury Road movie. It's a fun movie. It is not as good as Fury Road, as the Mad Max Fury Road movie. Whereas I think Mad Max Fury Road's success laid in that its story was really simple. It was just the entire movie was an extended chase scene. This one, the story was, convoluted is not the right word. The story was opaque. I wasn't really sure what the main driver of the plot was the entire time, I wish that there was, like, that's one of my favorite things in the world is when movies are just like, in the first act, where the movie's headed, you can anticipate what act 3 is going to be like in act 1. And with this one, I just couldn't do that. But the acting I thought was really good. Chris Hemsworth absolutely cheeses it up as Dementis, a villain. I think these Marvel guys, they play heroes for so long that you give them an opportunity to play a villain, and I think they just love it. And so watching Chris Hemsworth play a villain was really fun. And I think he fit in really well into kind of the Mad Max world. Anya Taylor-Joy did a good job as Furiosa. And the Mad Max movies aren't necessarily like known for their acting as much as they're known for their action. And some of the action was really well done, I thought. But I think whereas Mad Max Fury Road felt really grounded because they had a lot of practical effects, I think this one had some practical, but there was enough green screen work and like CG / body double stuff that some of it felt, you just could tell that it was fake.
Yeah.
And it just didn't feel as real and authentic as grounded as Fury Road did. And so it was good. It was still a good movie to watch. It's still fun, but not as good as Fury Road was.
It's had the weirdest press tour.
Really?
And then reviews were all over the place. And then money, it's made some money, but it's definitely not made what it's supposed to. So I was wondering if it was more just people not wanting to see it because it was a young prequel story, or if it was, like you're saying, just not up to the same level. Not bad, but not up to the same level as the Fury Road. Yeah,
Fury Road was like lightning in a bottle. It was just amazing. It was so good on every level. And so how could you expect it to be? Maybe lightning strikes twice sometimes, but yeah, so it's a good movie. Definitely like worth your money to go see it. But if you're expecting Fury Road, like you're not going to get it. Yeah. Hard when there's something so good that you just want to replicate, and instead you're like, yeah. Let's Leave in Dogs Lie. What about I Saw the TV Glow? Boy, what a artistic movie. Have you seen this one? No, I haven't yet. Yeah, so I only saw a trailer for it. And that was like 2 months ago or something. And was really intrigued because it's an independent film, artistic. And what I love about a movie is when it has a color palette. and it does a really good job adhering to its color palette. And this is absolutely one of those movies. It's got this purple pink neon color palette that kind of accents everything, and it's really well done. This movie is like, when I call it like it's an artsy movie, like I mean that, because it's not a movie that holds your hand and tells you what it means. It's very clearly a metaphor or an allegory for something, and it's not explicit in telling you that. I saw it with a group of friends, and after the fact, it was like, oh, this is an allegory for what it's like to be transgender. And I was like, oh, duh. Like after the fact, I'm like, duh. But watching the movie, I was like, the soundtrack is pretty subdued, which I really thought was good. The editing and the sound design is really cool. The cinematography is really great. And the acting is so well done. But it's basically, high level, it's the story of these two kids who are obsessed with this TV show in high school. And one of the friends disappears when the TV show gets canceled. And it's this blend of magical realism with this coming of age story, and blends 90s TV aesthetics and like malls and arcades and movie theaters with kind of the anxiety and the dread of what it's like to grow up and not know who you are. And it was really well done. I want to see it again now that I know that it's an allegory for what it's like to be transgender, so that I can like see that more in the film.
Yeah, this movie was reviewed by our writer, Jackson, in Salt Lake City. Mm-hmm. He was not a big fan. I think he gave it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
And he decided the aesthetics were great, the style was great, but at least for him, he said it was hard to enjoy a film that didn't feel like it was about anything on the surface, and you had to know a lot more context to really see it. So I wonder if that kind of added to why it maybe didn't blow up like some other films did.
Yeah.
That said, I have had a lot of friends and people here in town who have said it's one of their favorites of the year. It's amazing. You have to go see it. So I know it is hitting with a certain demographic or audience, maybe just not as wide as they could have hoped.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's something to be said for a movie that requires you to engage with it on some level.
Yeah.
To really enjoy it. Like, obviously, Marvel movies aren't that. And so Marvel movies are what they are on the surface. There's really not a deeper message to them at all. But like, I love a movie like The Tree of Life, where it's clearly about something, and it's like very metaphorical, very symbolic in everything that it's doing, and it requires you to engage with it. And like, yeah, I really appreciate a movie that does that. That like, then once you think about it, it rewards second and third and fourth viewings after the fact, because you've done some like mythological thinking about it.
Yes, it's nice to have those movies, like you're saying, interstitched with the wider audience ones. And great that this went to theaters, honestly, in my mind. I think it's great to see that it wasn't a straight-to-streaming movie that gets buried, or a couple 100,000 people see it. It definitely had a wider box office, and glad to know that you saw it, and hope others did too. I've spent my time watching some TV lately, doing a little bit of binging. My fiance is working on a project at work for Severance with LinkedIn.
Wow.
That. My fiance is working on a project with Severance. So we had to do a little rewatch. Severance is such an amazing show. Start to finish, and better on the rewatch. Have you watched it?
Really? I've seen it once.
Yeah, I found it better on the rewatch and picked up on more things, different things with Holly, or theories or ideas of where is Mark living, things like that. Loved it on the second watch. So excited for the next season to come out. I believe it comes out January 2025.
Like 3 or 4 years after the season 1.
Yeah. The pandemic threw some things in a wrench. Plus, I guess Ben Stiller and co. were like, just wait.
Here's my one gripe with Severance. You ready?
Let's hear it.
I hate a cliffhanger ending, because to me, what it signifies is that they didn't know how to end their story in a way that was satisfying and engaging. And so what they did was they just cut their final episode in half and left us hanging. It was one of my biggest, Severance was good. It was cool. I enjoyed it. It was like an intriguing story, world building, that kind of stuff. But I hate a cliffhanger ending.
But not Endgame style. No, I'm just kidding. That's different. Splitting a movie. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you're right. If you hate cliffhangers, Severance is a kick in the crotch. I was really hoping a second season would have come out right afterwards, so we would have picked
Yeah.
right up because that would have been easier to deal with. But you're right. If you're not a fan of cliffhangers, and it does feel like a half wrapped up story in which they knew they were getting another season, so they were like, "Oh, it's fine. We'll just leave it here."
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that part. I still think the way in which it was filmed, the aesthetic, everything else was beautiful. But I will say, it opened me up and reminded me of a show from 2018 that I loved that not as many people saw, which was Maniac. Did you ever watch that on Netflix?
No, I didn't. With Jonah Hill and Emma Stone?
Jonah Hill and Emma Stone, Justin Theroux, Susan Sarandon. A great series. Now, I think when I watched it, because nobody I knew had seen it, I figured it must have just been obscure. Nobody saw it. But then in looking, I realized it has fantastic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, all across the internet of critics. And it did get a lot of watches and like brought a lot of people back to the series. So the fact that Netflix has kept it up and a lot of people watched it, I was like, okay, not as small as I thought. But I just think you can't have Severance without Maniac in many ways. Maniac is worse. It's slower. The rumor that I heard was that the writers were forced to write 2 extra episodes because Netflix wanted 10 instead of 8. So they were forced to write 2 more. Therefore, it feels a little bloated at parts and slow. Okay. But the series is created by Kari Joji Fukunaga, who was a producer and director on True Detective, who was the director of No Time to Die, 007, who was a producer on Beasts and No Nations. I mean, he's got a pretty good list of things. Thumper, Kofi. Anyways, this guy is not new to TV, but it's great to see how he handled the series, and he takes it in a weird, retro-futuristic style, aesthetic, everything else. It's very druggy at moments of just like weird, trippy scenes. The whole idea is that Jonah Hill and Emma Stone take part in a clinical trial in which they're given A, B, and C drugs to fix their depression. A is the taking them back to the scene of the crime, what actually caused the depression. B is a dreamlike state in which they have to confront it, and C is the overcoming. And so it takes them through these little like dreamscape blips and memories that are almost just like movie tropes they get to live through. So like a spy infiltrating a party, or, you know, a road trip movie, or kind of a Lord of the Rings style fantasy at one point. And it's all just painting this picture of how they're dealing with grief, honestly.
Interesting.
Jonah Hill's got schizophrenia. Anyways, it's fantastic. It's weird. Not for everybody. I think that while I loved it, my fiance was less interested in than Severance because it's not as straightforward. But I think if you like Severance, or at least you like some of the aspects of it, you have to go back to Maniac, watch that, dive into the mind in a kind of a fun, colorful, funky color palette way.
That's cool.
It's a fun one.
I'll have to check it out.
I know we got a couple more things coming up for us on the podcast. As far as things we're watching, things we're reviewing, I will say we have a series on alien movies. We're going to start that up pretty soon, so we'll have our first episode for that. And thanks again for listening today. We'll be back again soon.